three-way win is number one core value of our company. It has to be a win for the client, win for the team internally, and win for the company's financials, all three. So we tell our team the customer is not always right at our company because we're looking for three-way wins, not one-way wins. That's what our culture is. In the very beginning, when SMB teams started doing quarterly boulder setting, I would basically be a dictator, right? I would tell everyone, here's what we need to focus on. And then what kind of buy-in do you think I got? What the hell is this crap? I'm already busy, right? So then I went completely opposite perspective, and I said, oh, well, you create all the goals, team. But since the team wasn't studying business and I didn't give them enough context, did they set the right goals or the wrong goals? Wrong goals. So then they started going in the wrong direction, right? And so then I had to meet in the middle, and that's where I read the book, No Rules Rules, by the founder of Netflix. And that kind of talks about context, not control. Setting context, but not micromanaging or controlling every aspect of the goal-setting process in your firm, right? What's setting context? So team, vision, here's where we're going. Like Frank said, we're going to Mars. Here's the 5 things that have to be true for us to go here. Now, I want you to show me how we can hit $25 million a year in revenue, which is what Mark did, within these 5 parameters so that we can get here and have this impact on our market and target these case types and blah, 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 blah. So now your goal setting process becomes cooperative, but you've set the context. Who has the best data on your team? If you don't have a data scientist on your team, who has the best data? The person doing the work has the best data. The person talking to clients and doing the actual work is the person who has your best data, if you don't have macro data accurate in your firm. So this is where you have to listen to what your team's saying the problems are, the priorities are, right? Now, if you were to just ask your team with no context, do you want to handle more or less clients? What are they going to say? Well, great, yeah, I have full control over the goals. I'll just have one client then. No, I'm fine. Yeah. That's what I want. No, everything has to be a 3-way win. If you're able to embrace this across your entire organization and educate on what is a 3-way win, what's a win for the company and for the team and for the client, and you meet in the intersection in the middle of that, that's where you create a scalable business. Can't just be all for the client. Otherwise, you just offer everything free to every person that calls your office. If they have a price objection, you just go, fine, I'll do it for free. Right? Client-centric. Right? You want to call me at midnight? Fine, I'll personally take your call at midnight. Yes. Right? Just give in to every single thing they want, right? Anyone want that? Thumbs up or thumbs down? But when you're desperate, right, when you start your firm, it's kind of what you do, right? You wake up panicked when you got that call because you're like, what if I lose the client? What if? And that panic is what drives through your whole first phase of scaling the business, right? So the emotional resilience that steps in to have a 3-way win mindset does take a little bit of resilience. Because you got to be okay with a little bit of problems in all 3 of the areas if you want to compromise in the middle of all 3 of the areas. Right? Something funny happening up there? That's good. I want to learn that routine. So, what you just heard Jack break down is an example of the comprehensive goal-setting process. So we start with, like Frank said, a company boulder, right? So we really have a vision, right? Then we have a plan, right? Then from the plan, we have quarterly boulders, right? Right? And then from the quarterly boulders, We have what are called department boulders, right? Then we have both individual boulders and KPIs, right? So you go from the biggest picture to the annual picture to the quarterly boulders for the firm as a whole. And these are things the whole firm needs to be focused on. By the way, what percent of S&B team's employees, when I first rolled this out 4.5 or 5 years ago, are still with the company? Who wants to take a guess? I don't even know. Maybe 5%? What got you here won't get you there. If you want to just tag everyone along and they're not willing to play the game, your firm's not going to grow. Or you're just going to have to put up with a ton of complaining and resistance until one day you're going to have to sit the people down on your team, say, hey, here's where we're going. Here's the way I'm running the business. Do you want to be a part of it or not? How many of you have seen Swamp Kings on Netflix? Anyone? You guys got to watch that. It's the Florida Gator turnaround thing. Urban Meyer, the coach, he goes into the team after they lost this crucial game. He basically goes onto the tour. It's the bus after the game. He goes on for the whole team. He goes, we're winning the championship. Okay? If you're not willing to do this, this, and this regarding practice, training, and preparation, get off the bus right now. Literally, it was a bus. Right? In all the leadership books, they say, get the right people on the bus, wrong people off. Well, literally, that's exactly what the head coach did in this circumstance, right? So some of you are at a come to Jesus moment in your firm's trajectory. Because I don't care if they're the highest performer in the world. The hardest, I got to curse, shit I ever have to do as a CEO is letting go of culture toxins that are high performers. My blood's boiling right now as I say it. I'm having memories. It's the hardest. You can see the place I'm going to with this. It's just the hardest emotion. It's just the hardest emotion. Especially when they're providing value to the business. And how many of you have ever had someone like this? Give me a raise of hands. You've had someone who was great with clients, but a complete toxin internally. That's the worst one. Right? They're great with all your clients. If I let go of these people, all my clients are going to be pissed off, right? You got to ask yourself, are you just a client-only company or are you a comprehensive company? Do you care about your team? Do you care about your company? And do you care about your clients? By the way, in order to be in business, do you have to have a company? In order to serve clients, can you have a bankrupt company? Okay? Well, get used to it because all of your decisions have to factor in, is it profitable to the company? And is it right for the client? Right? And is it right for the team? Is my internal team's happiness going to be raised or declined by this? It's not a one-way win business. If you want to grow slow, just do one-way win decisions. Because if you only make decisions on one way, if you just make decisions that are great for your clients 1,500 times in a row, eventually something's going to suffer on team and business. If you just make business optimizing profit decisions constantly, eventually clients and team is going to suffer. So it's a three-way balance. You can't just give in to every client's need at the expense of the company's profit. You can't just give in every client's need at the expense of your team's sanity. How many of you have clients that you think are pulling at the team's sanity bank account right now? Fire them. Get them away. You got to go through these churnings every now and then. How do you make a plant grow faster? What's it called? Pruning? I forget what it's called. Bad example. Any gardeners in here? Yeah, you got to cut the dead stuff, right? And then the growth comes, right? You got to get good at cutting the dead. It's not a comfortable feeling, but there's an opportunity cost anytime you're keeping that semi-alive object in your business. Right? So, vision, plan, company-wide quarterly boulders, then departmental boulders. So I need you, as the CEO of your firm, to view your firm in segments, right? Like, when I had 5 employees, I was already referring, because I was future truthing myself. Everyone should write this term down because it's the best term ever. I was future truthing myself to the fact that I was going to have a big company. So I would tell people, oh, let me go talk to my sales team when I really had one salesperson, right? Let me go talk to my marketing team when really I was the person doing the marketing. That's because I had to tell myself that before I believed it, long enough until I started believing it, right? I have a marketing team. I have a finance team. I have a sales team. Now we actually do, right? That's future truthing yourself, right? Yeah, let me talk to our litigation team. Let me talk to our complex divorce team. Just start saying this stuff because you have to believe it first, right? And departmental boulders are a reflection of the segmentation that you see within your firm. So when you set a company-wide goal, you then should be thinking of how does that goal feed into each of the departments of the firm, and then who are the individuals within each of those departments, right? Which is the last one. So we have your intake department, right? So your intake department, once you start hiring intake people, right, you almost create this spider web of goal setting. So, how many of you actually have an intake department? Like a real one, not one person. Now, you can future truth yourself, everyone. Now, future truth, who has an intake department? Everyone. Okay, great. All right. So, everyone has an intake department. Okay, so within your intake department, right, you have a macro goal plus KPI, right? I don't know what that KPI for you is. Jack had this example you use about these 3 or so KPIs that are important to him, right? The distance between a client submitting their info and booking a consultation, right? So you have a macro goal and a KPI within each subset of the firm. Ideally, when you get really good at this, you're able to know, like a spidey sense, the one thing in intake this quarter is this. The one thing in marketing this quarter is this. The one thing in operations this quarter is this. The one thing in blah, blah, blah is this, right? Then, let's say you have 2 individuals in intake. This is the same mistakes I made. You set a big intake company-wide, we're going to do X in intake this quarter. And you tell your team that, and then at the end of the quarter, you don't hit the goal. Why? Because like Frank said, you didn't break it down to the individual level. The magic happens when there is individual accountability to numbers. Right? So, let's say in intake, we have 3 KPIs. Give me 3 KPIs, Jack, in intake, just real quick.
Conversion, show rate, and you can do time to close.
Yep. So, conversion, show rate, and time to close. Conversion percentage, that's after someone is showed, is that right? The percent of people who actually turn into a signed client who showed for their appointment. Yeah. So conversion percent is the percent of people who showed up to an appointment that eventually became a signed client. Everyone clear on that? Okay. Show percentage is the percent of form submissions or calls you got that actually booked a consult and showed up for that consult. It's the percentage of consultations that actually showed up to their consultation. And time to close is the distance from either when they first booked that consult or when the lead first came in, you can do either, and when they became a signed client. How many of you would be okay if your sales cycle took an average of 90 days? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Right? So all these things, all of them matter. Time to close, conversion percentage, show percentage. Now, let's say you set a company-wide goal or an intake department goal. Team, we want to get this conversion percent. We want to get this, we want to, and then there's no individual accountability for it. Versus law firm owner 2, who has the employee scorecard. How many of you are using individualized employee scorecards for every single employee in your firm? Raise of hands. Let me see the hands again. Not enough hands. Okay? So, employee name. So, name, role. We have templates on this in our online portal for you. Name, role. Can everyone do that? Give me a yes? Yes. Okay, awesome. Name, role. Okay. Now, purpose, KPI 1, KPI 2, KPI 3. So, Joe Schmo, role, intake specialist, purpose, convert as many qualified leads into a signed client. That's the purpose, right? At an average case value of X, right? KPI 1. Okay? This is the important distinction here. Is everyone following right now? Okay. If Joe Schmo had 100 leads in a month, his individual scorecard would show out of those 100 leads, what was his signed client conversion percentage on those 100 leads? What was his show percentage on those leads? And what was his time to close on those leads? Okay? Now, the magic happens when you pull this up front into your interview process, which is what we talked about last quarter, which is your employee blueprint. Right? So you literally, during your interview process, after you sell, if you're getting highly experienced people, you have to sell. So it can't just be like, oh, here's the role, here's your KPIs, right? You have to sell a little bit. You send them the vivid vision between the screening call and the second interview, which is all part of the interview process we teach, right? They go through the vivid vision, they send you a video back, which shows that they're bought into where the company's going. That sells them, along with the quality of the person doing the screening call. You tell them on their second interview at the very end, these are the 3 numbers that will be the measurements of success for your role. During your weekly one-on-ones with your manager, we'll be going through exactly what your numbers are for these 3 numbers, and we'll be highlighting in red when you are below the expectation for KPI, one of these 3 KPIs. We'll be highlighting in yellow when you're right at par, and we'll be highlighting in green when you're exceeding the KPIs, which is what we expect for every member of our team. Does that make sense? Now, what kind of a person are you going to attract to your team when you lead with that in the interview process?
High achievers.
Yeah. And are you going to scare some people away? What do you think? Damn right. So the magic happens when you do individual accountability. And then your weekly one-on-ones are where that accountability takes place. Last but not least, I know, Vic, I know. He's flashing lights down here at me. All right. So can I get a yes that everyone understands the importance of individual accountability?
Yes.
Can I get one more yes? Yes. Okay. It'll revolutionize everything.